This video is brought to you by Game Maker, the free, fast, and easy-to-use 2D game engine that helps power modern classics like Undertale, Hotline Miami, and Hyper Light Drifter. Starter templates, official asset bundles, and a wealth of tutorials are available to help bring your ideas to life. And you can export and share your game for free on all non-console platforms. But you don't have to take my word for it, I'm just some jerk. We have an actual bona fide Game Maker on hand.
Oh shit, that's me. Yes, I've been using Game Maker for a long time. It's probably the most powerful and easiest to use engine for making 2D games out there, suitable for both amateurs and hardcore coders, and with all the Steam and console integration stuff for when you're ready to start monetizing your hobbies. I used it to make my recently released game, Starstruck Vagabond, which has already delighted thousands of It's so bloody great.
Head on over to the Game Maker link in the description to begin your...
Oh. Okay,
Surprise.
well, sorry about that. We thought you might enjoy a black screen for a while. Hello, I'm Yahtzee. I'm presenting the Windbreaker podcast with your favorite triple-headed, glasses-wearing, bearded Hydra of Second Wind. It's Jay and Marty.
Hello. Aye.
And this week we're talking about the merits of simplicity in game design. I think Jay and I are going to be on the same page here. I'm very fond of simplicity. I mean, complicated games have their place. Lord knows I love a Deus Ex. Well, I love the first Deus Ex game. I love a JRPG now and again. But when it comes to appreciating the art of game design, you can't get better than a nice, simple design.
It also feels like when you play a modern game that you would say has simplistic design, it feels like it's harkening back to the early days of games. Because so many of the early classics, whether they were in arcades or early NES games, I think I would describe as simple. Like Super Mario Brothers feels simple to me. Pac-Man feels simple. Tetris feels simple. There's obviously great depth to them, but there's like an elegance to their simplicity that I really admire.
Yeah, I think having a singular mechanic or a singular theme of mechanics explored to their fullest extent is always going to be more entertaining to me than, say, you know, a really wide game mechanically that is trying to do a lot of different things, but done really shallowly. Like, anytime I see stealth in a game that also has action, I do not engage with it whatsoever. Like, I just think there's no point.
Well, I made this point when I was doing an essay on stealth games. Stealth games kind of need to have combat as well, because you need something to happen when the player fucks up the stealth. Mm-hmm. And if you just say, you fucked up, game over, then that tends to be very annoying.
Yeah, the Echoes of Wisdom. Like Zelda in the past has had those like 4 stealth sections, which have kind of been annoying. In Ocarina of Time, there's the Yiga clan dungeon in Breath of the Wild, and then
fucking Windbreaker.
Of
fucking walking around with a barrel on your head in Windbreaker.
Yeah, and the fortress. And Echoes of Wisdom has a few of them, but it's nice because the mechanics in the game are so flexible to where you can kind of like build a bridge around the stealth. Like I literally just build a bridge of beds to circumnavigate all stealth sections because I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, because in that regard, stealth is an exploration of the puzzle mechanics. It's just a different task for you to use the systems the game already has.
Yeah, it doesn't force you to use a completely different thing. It's like, well, think outside the box and get through this. Yeah.
It's like,
I always thought that's the ideal design for immersive sims for me. They give you a simple task and then they let you experiment with the mechanics to achieve it. Teardown did this very well.
Yeah.
It was all about just get to these computers within 1 minute time limit. Easy as.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just like tunneling paths through walls, leaving planks between a specific pair of ledges so you'd have a quick way across.
Yeah. I think what you said with stealth games need combat for there to be something for in your failure state, so it's not, just immediate failure. I do completely agree with that, but I think, again, it's how it's framed in the sense of that is a stealth game that includes combat as a response to, something happening in game, rather than a combat focused game that also has stealth attached to it. Because the failure state for failing in a combat game with stealth in it is just getting to engage with more combat, which you should want to be doing anyway, because hopefully the combat system's engaging and fun. So yeah, it's weird.
Sorry, I'm distracted by what I'm assuming is very low flying aircraft.
It's what was it called? That's the Blue Angels, right? This weekend in the Bay Area.
Oh yes, it's Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah.
I forgot.
They have a loud
game, and I was like, "What's Blue Angels?"
Blue? No, it's
yes.
Yeah,
Indigenous Peoples Day, previously known as Columbus Day, changed for obvious reasons.
in the San Francisco Bay Area, a bunch of loud ass planes fly overhead all weekend. It's funny, the way I think about when stealth gets forced into a non-stealth game is like if you would go to an Italian restaurant and then all of a sudden at the bottom of the menu they just have sushi and you're like, what's this doing here? Like, well, I'm not sure I'm going to trust.
That is perfect analogy, right? Because if I went to like an Italian place and they had sushi at the bottom, my brain would go, well, they're not going to do that well, so I'm not buying that.
Yeah. But then I'd kind of be intrigued to be like, well, maybe why'd you put it on here then? Like maybe you have a really good idea with this for what to do.
My conclusion in my essay about stealth games was that the ideal recipe is to have stealth, have combat that's kind of shitty and annoying, so that you kind of want to avoid having to do it.
Yeah.
But that's a hard thing for game publishers to understand. Saying, hey, let's make this one aspect of our game shitty and annoying. And then the immediate response of the committee that's doing the design will be like, why are we deliberately making part of our game shitty and annoying? Don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't want that to be shitty. And then
have
that smorgasbord game design again.
I had this issue recently playing it because I'm in real spooky mode at the moment, and I've been playing Silent Hill 2, the original Silent Hill 2, and the remake. Resi 7, I played a bit of Resi 2 remake, and
October
I'm
season.
enjoying them.
Yeah.
But there's just this repeated thing that keeps happening, and Marty will know this because I asked him yesterday. I hate the combat in those games, and I just want to ricochet off the environment and do puzzles and just explore the environment. And I'm like, I wish someone would just make a puzzle game like that, but just focus on the puzzles. And I messaged Marty yesterday. I was like, "What was that game series you mentioned?"
The Room.
Resi stream. The Room. Yeah.
Did you ever play any of the Room games, Yahtzee? They were like iOS and PC games that came out like 10 years ago or so.
I've played my fair share of escape room games.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
They were a big thing in when browser games like Newgrounds were a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I thought we were talking about Silent Hill 4, The Room.
No, the titular
the less puzzle games, and you can buy a collection of them for like $20. And I played through the first one and second one yesterday.
They're pretty neat, right? Nice little
and I was having a lot of fun because I just didn't
puzzles.
feel like I was being bogged down. Like the idea of, I know where this item goes, I know what to do, and then I have to trudge through a bunch of shit just to get to the thing. Like I was talking in my puzzle video, worst puzzle of all time. Like puzzles have one reward moment, which is that aha moment, and the journey to you having that moment and finishing the puzzle should be as short as possible. And having to go through a bunch of combat to get to that, I know the solution. I have it in my inventory, right? But I have to trudge through so much shit to get there. I just wish it would focus more, but. You got
to reinforce the horror vibes, haven't you?
Yeah. I would say, the Room. I would qualify as a simple game. It knows what it is doing, and it is especially I think a lot of games that were built originally for iOS, for mobile, for touchscreens, understand that simplicity of user input. I guess where do you guys think where does simplicity stop? What's the furthest a game could be? Where you'd be like, okay, you're still simple, but if you take one more step, I don't know if I'd, qualify you as simple.
Well, to answer that, let's consider gaming history. Because as you say, of course, back in the early days, games were necessarily simple. Because there wasn't much memory on the NES or the Atari 2600. So you just have your simple platformers, your simple maze games. But then as technology improved, the way we tracked the progress of games as an art form was by making games increasingly complicated to build more and more upon the simple framework. So Mario would have like you can go back and forth in Mario 3, and there's all these different pickups and all these different things you can collect on the map and all sorts of other things. And the response to that was all like, hey, cool. These games are getting bigger and better all the time. And that process is something you see in other art forms. It's a process of increased complexity, giving away eventually to a process of bringing things back to a simple place when we realize that things are getting a little bit out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through the development period of gaming where we developed technology to the point where basically any creative vision can be realized. The graphics tech, I mean, and that has led to the period we're in now, which is a much more introspective time where we're seeing not what more can be added to a prior formula, but what can be taken away to create a purer experience. Breath of the Wild did that very effectively.
Yeah.
Games like Portal sort of stripping out the combat element of the first-person shooter to explore the puzzle mechanic instead. So I guess you'd need to put your finger on the point in gaming history where the simplicity gave way to the complication.
Yeah, and a lot of times those specific trends that people follow tend to be in the like. Can you be open world and simple? I mean, you mentioned Breath of the Wild, but like to me, like you lose a bit of the simplicity when you try to like AAA. I would have a hard time, even with Nintendo, who I think tend to make games simpler than a lot of folks. I would be hard pressed to pinpoint a AAA game that I would refer to as simple.
Yeah,
Boom.
I think part of it is defining simple.
Sure.
Because
of course, Breath of the Wild is
yeah.
simple. I would say Breath of the Wild is simple to play. It's a simple experience for the player.
I agree.
But it's got extremely complicated systems running under the surface.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, with the game we've got on the thumbnail, of course, is UFO 50, which is a wonderful example of exploring simple ideas as far as they'll go. Like, it's a compilation of 50 NES-styled games, and they all explore a different mechanic in an interesting, unique way. One of the games I played on stream was, I think it was called Rail Heist, which was it was basically an immersive sim. Your task was to get past some lawmen, steal some money, and get out again. And the game was like, hey, do whatever you need to do that. You could break walls, you could like stun guards, you could stack objects to get over things. I thought that was very neat.
Well, it's the same thought process as Breath of the Wild, right? You have a selection of however many, like 4 main mechanics that you can utilize and use them between each other, and you are given. You can explore the world, but then you come to specific tasks that require you to potentially use these 4 mechanics in unique ways. And that simplicity, that focus on, as soon as I see a puzzle, I know it must involve one of these 4 things or a combination of these 4 things. It allows you to. I don't
know what thumbnail you're seeing, Golden Knight, because I'm seeing UFO 50. Is anyone else seeing Silent Hill 2 on the thumbnail?
Might be just a weird back-end cookies thing. So.
Those
playlist as last week,
in the past.
But I really appreciate like seeing a game make the most of a simple mechanic. I mean, as a game designer, I think one of the biggest pitfalls new amateur developers fall into is to get too overambitious with their first project. They're like, hey, I want to make something that's just like the games I've liked in the past. I'm going to make an RPG adventure game that's going to beat Halo and is also online somehow.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, as I said before, 100 small games that you've actually finished is worth 1 million times more than one like Titanic Super Game that you never actually get done.
I think a good example of mechanics that games that I've seen as a designer that I've really appreciated because it's basically an exploration of just sort of a handful of mechanics but framed in a different way, like Animal Well. Like playing through Animal Well really gave me that satisfaction of the simple example is jumping on the frisbee and using it as a transportation mode. Like the game encourages you to do that through its level design and how things are placed and stuff like that. But having that moment click something in your brain, and then every new mechanic you get is this exciting unraveling of like, what else can I do with this? What can I do?
Yeah, everything has
satisfying.
more underneath the surface.
Yeah.
Which, it almost feels like it's Animal Well's a game that begins simplistically and then evolves into something much more complicated. When I look at so many of my favorite indie games over the last 10, 15 years, however long, indie gaming has sort of been at the forefront. So many of them I think I would place as simple, and it's part of like what Yahtzee said, as that there's an elegance to a team or to a person who is like, I have a singular idea and I'm going to act on that without the necessity of outside interference of being like, oh, well, what if the audience wants some RPG mechanics, or they want a crafting system, or what if I try to get multiplayer in there? Like when I think of stuff like Journey or Neon White or like Immortality, or even like Unpacking, Stray from a few years ago.
The unpacking is simple. Neon White, it's got a simple core loop, but it's got all these extra complications added to it, like giving presents to your waifus and all of that.
Yeah, and I guess it's almost like the game can be both simple and like if you just want to get to the finish line, you can treat it relatively simplistically. But then if you want to get everything in the level and get those crazy red times or whatever they were, like you need to know the game well enough to break it. Whereas maybe that's the point when
well, that's good design. It's you can get out of it what you put into it. You can get as much out of it as you're willing to put in.
Yeah, like simple games can evolve into being quite deep. I think that's a word that I'd use, is they're deep once you get into them, rather than being complex or anything. And
yes, I've certainly played complex games that I'd consider very shallow. Star Wars Outlaws leaps to mind. And quite a lot of that style of game where it's like a million different mechanics spread out across far too large a space.
Like my worst nightmare. Like I some of my favorite games ever, are ones that are taking a simple mechanic and just exploring it to its fullest. Like I think one that's very, very simple, like with its time slowdown and combat, is like, I feel Katana Zero explores its mechanics very thoroughly, but in a very short amount of time. And I massively prefer that than this weird, homogenous pulp of AAA everything. Like, this unattractive.
Yeah, that's Katana Zero is a good. Yeah, Hotline Miami, obviously, which Katana Zero is partly inspired by.
It's a very broadly influential game, Hotline Miami, I'd say. I see games with some influence from it to this day.
Yeah, that might be like, if we ended up having to like make a top 10 most influential indie games, that might be on there. Yeah, whether it's stylistically or even gameplay wise. When I think of some of the games I play to like zone out, to unwind, like Yahtzee, when you talk about sort of the second screen games or the podcast games and stuff, Katamari Damacy is the game I always go back to, and I feel like that is a simplistic game. I mean, you are literally only using the analog sticks.
Yes, that's definitely another. That's only another simple to play, massively complicated under the surface sort of game.
Yeah. The complication under the hood.
Yeah, there's one mechanic. You roll a ball around.
Yeah.
You roll a ball around and things stick to your ball, and sticky ball reference joke.
What a wonderful little sticky ball reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because then even from a lot of these like simple games ended up, you get the offshoots of them. You get, Donut County comes from Katamari, and then you get was Limbo the first like sad child walks to the right?
Sad child in a scary world walking to the right. Yeah. I think Little Nightmares has taken the crown of the codifier of that particular genre, but Limbo was the first. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, you had Inside, you had the Little Nightmares games, you have games that are offshoots of those developers, like
See,
Somerville and
see,
something.
the thing about Limbo is that it's not what I would call elegant in design, because as a strictly linear narrative, it's a game that has to constantly come up with new ideas, none of which it can explore for long. It's not really the same as something like Katamari, where you're doing the same thing but in more and more.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of like Breath of the Wild. You're not, every time you come to a puzzle, it's not, well, I know the answer is a combination of these mechanics that I have access to. It's, what is this mechanic? What does the game want me to do? Rather than what can I do?
Oh yeah,
And
the puzzles are very singular in their solutions, I would say.
Yeah. Almost it makes you think of point-and-click adventure games.
Yeah.
Another genre that was very big on singular solutions.
Yeah. Would you say were shooters, particularly first-person shooters, were they ever simple?
Oh yeah.
Are there simple shooters?
Point to the thing and click on the thing.
But like, do you think Doom becomes complicated when it's like touch a bunch of walls and try to see which ones open up and then find your key cards? And
well, I've certainly been seeing a lot of indie shooters that have tried to strip it down even further. Shit like Mullet Mad Jack and the Post Void, where it's literally just keep pressing forward, going to the next room and shooting guys. Oh, there's no mazes, there's no key hunts, there's no gradual escalation of monster types and weapon varieties. I guess Wolfenstein was about as simple as it got in like the old format.
Yeah.
It's like literally just single levels, 3
or
different
even
weapons, and you shoot Nazis.
Early deathmatch, before sort of, I guess, like Call of Duty perk system came about and tons of different game modes. Like early Quake deathmatch felt kind of
remember
simple.
when multiplayer gaming was simple. I remember.
Yeah,
those
when
days.
I could be a part of it.
I remember playing Team Fortress Classic.
Yeah. That's what it almost feels like when multiplayer got complicated, is when I had to tap out a little bit.
Yeah, and then like the single player started taking influence from the live service multiplayer games, and now everything's fucking gear grinding and leveling up and RPG elements.
I think we've been doing that in FPS games for yonks. Like even when I was playing Call of Duty multiplayer as a teenager, it was all about, well, you're not going to unlock the most powerful SMG until you hit level 50, and you have to play a certain amount of time. And there is a level of, this is why they do it, addiction, and you want to get to those things and you want them to be powerful. But that also does the opposite. Now I'm older and I don't have a lot of time. When I see those systems, I'm like, fuck that. I'll go play something else.
Yeah.
So it's different demographics.
How do you feel about a game that has a very simple control system? I was thinking of Cocoon last year, which I think just has a button you use. Like I think there is an action button, and the puzzles. We talked about Cocoon quite a bit, but it's you're like a little dude in a big world, and you solve puzzles by sort of creating these universes within universes, and you carry a ball around that powers a switch, but then you can go inside the ball, and it's its own little universe inside there.
I suppose that's more elegance than simplicity. I've been noticing people bring up that distinction in the chat.
Okay.
Because Cocoon, I wouldn't say is a simple game, but it does have elegant controls. I've always prized elegance in controls. Like the fewer button presses you need to press to get to what you're trying to do, the better, in my view. That's another thing. Like AAA games seems to be willfully.
What's the distinction between that
avoiding.
and simple though? Because for me, they're very, very similar.
Okay.
Because something can be simple and elegant at the same time, but what would make something, and also something can be complex and elegant, but can something be simple and not elegant? Because for me, for something to be simple, it has to, by its very nature, be elegant.
The Plucky Squire.
Okay.
I would consider a game to be simple but inelegant.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because it's got a lot of clumsy like switches, like gameplay switches. but it doesn't really focus on any core gameplay mechanic. And none of its mechanics are particularly deep.
Mm.
Yeah, and that was a game where, despite the fact that you have very little to do, like in terms of like you have a sword, you can leave the book, you could turn the pages of the book, you could pick stuff up, but like you don't have a lot of stuff to do. But every time I had to do something, I almost had to think a beat about, like, I'd leave the book and I'd be like, how the fuck do you turn the pages again? And I'd be like, I got to hold a couple buttons to turn the pages, and am I turning left or am I turning right, and like which direction is going to move the pages in the way I wanted it to go. Which I almost feel like that it's kind of like when you guys were talking about Astrobot and how some of the like not fourth wall breaking, but some of the gimmicky like blow on the controller or you can motion control it takes you out of the experience because it reminds you are playing a game and not like you are immersed in this world. It almost feels like that's where the elegance breaks down when I start seeing
that's another the code. I would say that Astrobot would probably be another good example of a game that's simple but inelegant.
Well, I think adding those mechanics of blow on the controller, use like the haptics, use the motion controls, makes the game just not simple. Like the fact that I have to break my mind out of my flow state of playing and look at the controller or think about what the game wants me to do. It's like approaching those puzzles in Limbo. I think it's bad design when you have to think, what does the designer want me to do here? Not, I know what I should be doing because of the context clues and the narrative, or like I can just intuit what's happening. If you have to think about it, I think it makes it complex and not very good.
I still like the as gimmicky as they are, I still like the moments where my controller chirps at me or when I had to look down and blow on it. And yes, it does absolutely. You guys are correct. It takes you out of the flow, but for me, it really lends to the feel of this thing is a toy. And I wouldn't want it in. I don't know.
I don't want toys. I'm a big grown-up. I want grown-up things.
To be honest, Astrobot is a toy.
I want the head to be black and carry a gun.
You're the shadow.
So children.
Yeah, but I mean, I see where you're coming from, but that's just like I don't know. Like, part of the joy of Astrobot to me was like the fact that it just feels like a toy box that's been dumped.
I think that's what Astrobot is built on, right? It's these little micro moments of oh yeah, cool. Like you see a character you like, you realize the game wants you to blow on the controller, and because Astrobot's very short, I think that's why it's satisfying in the moment. But I think if you blew that up to like a 20-hour experience where the game just kept doing that, and you still didn't fully understand what the game wanted you to do, I think it'd become rather frustrating. In theory.
Are there genres that you think, I already mentioned shooters, but are there genres that you think that can't be done simplistically? Like, can you have a simple fighting game?
Well, you can, and such things exist, like Karate Car or Dive Kick. Or
Nidhogg's a good example. Nidhogg's a good example too. Yeah,
but that's not what people want in fighting games. Apparently,
sure.
The core audience of fighting games wants more and more complicated ways to get one over each other, I suppose.
Yeah,
but also a lot of modern games. I can't name some. I think it's the Dragon Ball Z fighters, and I think the new Tekken have auto combos. So you just need to land the hit and they combo themselves.
I think even Street Fighter had that. I think Casey was talking about how it has like a simplistic control scheme or casual or whatever term they use.
That seems like something that does seem like something hardcore fighting game players would complain about.
Yeah, I think it's their way of like, how do we, like, these things have gotten so complex, how do we draw in an audience who might find this overwhelming? Maybe they would enjoy it if they had time to play it, but like, can you have like a simple RTS? Can you have like a simple, I don't know.
See, in fighting games, the whole thing where every character has like unique button combos that you have to memorize to do every different attacks. That's one of those things where I've always said, if that hasn't existed since the beginning of fighting games, would you invent it? Because the Smash Brothers method, where every character has exactly the same button inputs, but it just changes what they just have different moves assigned to them, feels like the much more elegant solution. That would be much more actually
you can
skill
switch
based and
between
not just based on memorizing shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always overwhelming to go to like an arcade and see like what for like a modern fighter, they're like, okay, it's got the joystick and then it's got 17 buttons. And you're like, this is too many buttons. Like, what am I supposed to do with all these buttons? And granted, a controller has a bunch of buttons and keyboard obviously has a bunch of buttons, but yeah.
Okay, here you go. I would say there's no simple JRPGs. How about that? Or simple RPGs. Can you think of any simple RPGs?
All of them?
All of them?
Like, yeah, just I'm in my menu. Oh, I'll hit this guy and I'll heal this guy. Fucking baby game.
You fucking.
I would argue even Final Fantasy 1 is a pretty complex game.
Yeah, that's I within the last year I replayed Final Fantasy 1 and Dragon Quest 1, and both I feel like are very complicated. Like surprisingly so, probably even more complicated than some of the ones that came afterwards.
But you know, that's the kind of complication I appreciate. Like, hey, let's make this timely. We both liked Metaphor Fantasio, didn't we, Marty?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is by no measure a simple game.
What makes it complex?
Well, it's much like its spiritual predecessor, Persona. It's a dual hybrid JRPG dungeon crawler stroke life simulator where you have to build up your social stats and your relationships with characters during the life sim parts in order to help with your combat ability in the dungeon crawly part.
Yeah,
and also there's a really
surviving combat is based on you knowing your party's strengths and weaknesses, knowing the enemy's strengths and weaknesses, exploiting them without getting your own exploited, and then finding the best synergy between job trees between your four characters.
There's a million billion different abilities you can unlock. There's a million billion different items you can use mid-battle. And the game goes on for like 100 hours against increasingly difficult enemies. There's plenty of side quests, all sorts of characters all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it's complicated in the way one appreciates, because the complication sort of is more about creating a world we can just bury our face in and go like a big pair of jubblies.
And is that complexity wise, that's JRPGs and a lot of games similar are not mechanically intensive. The complexity usually comes from like knowledge and understanding, like you said, the weaknesses and advantages of your party or the enemies, and knowing what to do rather than being able to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a bit of both, really, because you have to be able to do. You have to level up in order to unlock the skills to be able to do things, and you also have to know what things to use.
But does that stuff happen naturally, or does it require you to grind?
Well,
the game actually has very little grinding. In fact, like you can't. There's no like infinite grind spots. Like there is.
I'd say in previous Shin Megami Tensei like style games, you'd usually fight a boss, and in the process of fighting it, it would probably kick your ass. But in the process of fighting it, you'd learn its weaknesses. So the next time you did it, you'd know what to do. But in Metaphor, they introduced like intelligence agents who you can buy information from, and they will just tell you what the weakness of the upcoming boss is. So you can be sure you're on your first go that you're fully prepared.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah,
it didn't waste my time.
Because it saves you from going up there and being like, I'm going to try out 10 different elements, and 3 of them are going to repel against me, and then I'm going to figure out it's fire.
And I'm probably going to get wiped and have to restart.
Yeah. Like I don't like. I feel like when anyone's like, "What's the first JRPG I should play?" I always tell them Chrono Trigger, but I don't think Chrono Trigger is simple. I think Chrono Trigger is very elegant and like everything.
I think Chrono Trigger has a simple plot that doesn't turn people off. It starts, you wake up, your mum goes, "Hey, get up, lazy bones, go to the fair." And it's all fairly intuitive and straightforward. Oh, you get time traveled. Oh, it's like a Goosebumps book. I'm just an ordinary kid who's trapped in and having an adventure. I think it gets a lot more complicated if you keep playing it.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
I think it's a good first JRPG. I agree with that.
You touched on an important point there, which is story and how a game portrays its narrative in its early moments is incredibly
true.
important.
You can have a very complicated game and a very simple story, and the other way around. Like Return of the Obra Dinn. Simple gameplay, very complicated story.
Also a great example, because I was going to say you don't really want to start off complicated. You want to start off simple to build people up and then get more complicated as it goes. But I think Obra Dinn does the complete opposite, which is here's an incredibly complicated narrative on this ship, go. And you're super overwhelmed, and the satisfaction is from unraveling that. But I guess that's just the type of game being an investigation puzzle game.
I think it's one of the early corpses. You explore their final moments, and you just go in, and you're just like, oh, the ship's being attacked by a kraken.
Like, I didn't expect this here. Yeah.
And there's like 100 people getting killed, and there's bits flying everywhere, and 2 hours later, you'll have a death where it's just some guys cutting a sheep's throat in the belly of the ship so that they can cook dinner. It's like, wow, like quite a sine wave of experiences, this game.
Snake of the Garden, and a few other people earlier brought up in terms of an RPG that could be simple. The original Pokemon generation.
No.
You don't think like the original Blue and Red?
You gotta there's like a million different types of Pokemon. You gotta memorize what types are vulnerable to other types. I would say Pokemon is a very complicated system.
Was it elegant then? I don't know. Like, to me, I knew a lot of people who that was their
we're getting stuck on the semantic simple versus elegant question here, aren't we?
But yeah, I think for a lot of people that was like I guess maybe that's more of a gateway game. Maybe that's an entirely different thing. Like, I think that was a gateway to JRPGs for, I think, a lot of kids around.
I guess. Yeah. And that's another one that I guess does start pretty simple. Like, hey, you want to be the very best like no one ever was? Off you go.
I would love that. I would love to be the very best. Before we get to super chats, one last thing. When Jay, you brought up earlier of simple mechanics, but the complexity comes in sort of the knowledge around it. That to me, in a nutshell, is like The Witness, which is a game that ostensibly is just first person wandering around an island solving little mazes, get from point A to point B. But the complexity is how it folds in new rules to these mazes, and like what you are literally doing does not get any more complicated, but what you need to know in order to do those things.
What was that game I played? I streamed it a while back, where you can jump higher than your maximum fall distance. So if you jump and then land, you just die.
Oh yeah.
But later on, the game teaches you that if you fall slightly further than that, then you bounce.
Yeah.
To unlock a hole, and if you fall even further than that, then you tunnel into the ground.
Yeah.
What's that game called?
I can't remember what it was called, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Leap Year.
That was it. Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm looking this up.
That's definitely what we call a Metroidvania, where you've got all the abilities at the start. You just have to know that you have them.
Mm-hmm.
Overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, it was an interesting one.
There's a game came out I think a month ago or something called Foul Damage. FOW.
Yeah,
he plays like a little egg, and if you fall too far, you crack. I like that.
Yeah, same principle.
Makes me rethink. Yeah,
same principle. If you can jump higher than your maximum fall distance.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I'd recommend it. Give it a go. And you know what? It was a game developed in Game Maker.
Ooh!
Which is our sponsor for this stream.
No one makes
Game Maker.
Yeah. Why don't you all download Game Maker and then make very simple games to impress us with?
Legit, do it, because I would like to play some of your game projects.
It would be fun to have a second wind game jam where we tell people, no,
we were planning just before the Escapist imploded. We were planning one, but then everything happened. Maybe that's something we'll do. I think that would be really, really fun.
Year 10.
Yeah, might be fun to do that. I've been trying to get a complicated game idea off the ground, so it might be fun to take a holiday from that.
Ooh.
Anyway, super chats, starting with Dr. Theo, who gave us $5 and says, remember back in the day when casual gaming was frowned upon? I'm so glad we moved past that. Yeah, I remember a time when people would dismiss games like Stardew Valley as casual games, and that whole attitude seems to have disappeared.
I do think there's still a little bit of it. I'm not going to call anyone out on this panel, but there's still a little bit of it when it comes to are certain things legally games?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had that distinction with Stray. Is Stray a game?
You had it with Stray. Yahtzee had it with Hellblade recently.
Yeah. I'm glad it's gone with mobile games. I remember when I was younger, a lot of people wouldn't consider, if you played games on mobile, they wouldn't say you're a gamer.
Yeah.
And it's what are you on about?
I think there's a general understanding that gaming is a wonderful smorgasbord tapestry of different experiences, and everyone can enjoy whatever they enjoy. And there's no need to be an asshole about it.
Yeah, there's no need to gatekeep a hobby. Let someone have fun.
Yeah. And I think there's good things to sort of keep a watchful eye on when it's mobile games. I have nothing against. There's so many mobile games I love, but arguments can be made against the predatory ones, against the ones that are there to kind of entice you, suck you into its fucking quicksand, and then try to get as much money out of you.
That's the same
as
for anything,
possible.
right? Gacha games.
Yeah,
they're designed to ruin you.
Yeah, ruin you.
Harumph, disapprove, etc.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Alex Armstrong, AXA, gives $5 and says, while your rant on donating to Patreon was funny, Yahtzee, why would I donate when I spend about $20 a week on here to have my dumb questions answered? Well, you weren't the sort of person we were complaining about, Alex Armstrong. If you want to do that, fine. Just seems, more convenient to subscribe.
But then we would never say Alex Armstrong's beautiful alliterative name.
Well, Alex Armstrong, why don't you just get a second mortgage on your house and do both?
Yeah, and then give us all the money.
Think about it. Second mortgage.
We can keep making videos.
Who needs You know what? Your first mortgage is probably lonely. Your second mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah, get the full set.
Mortgage.
Don't do that. Oh, don't do that. This might be the worst advice we've ever given anyone.
Collect all 52 mortgages.
Oh no!
Fox Steeg is $5. It says, third straight Monday off work, didn't sleep through the pod this week. Listening while playing American Truck Simulator. Speaking of simple games.
Honk honk.
Oh my god, we are the second monitor right now, guys. Oh my god.
Ah, it's simple, but is it elegant?
Oh.
Definitely not.
Probably not, yeah, because they had to design a whole open world version of America to explore.
Oh, you're talking about, I thought you said we are simple, but are we elegant? I said, we're definitely simple. I do not think we're elegant.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're elegant.
I like to think I have an elegance to me.
Mortimer does. You're not elegant, but you play one on TV.
I only wear black clothes. That's pretty elegant.
That is a elegant color.
It's pretty. I think it's more goth than it is elegant.
A lot of goths are elegant.
It's not goth. It's being a writer.
James Bond wears black.
Oh yeah, we've had this conversation before. Yeah. You dress
Terry
like
Pratchett and Neil Gaiman all just dress in black, and they're not goth.
Johnny Cash.
Very true.
Yahtzee will wear a green hat in 8 weeks, gives €2 and says, when I went back to Starstruck, it was like coming home. Now, I put my hands up to Starstruck not being a very simple game. Certainly wasn't from my perspective.
No, I don't think it's simple. Well, I think it's simple mechanically that then gets more complex as you go. Were there any things that you wanted to do but talked yourself out of?
I was thinking about adding explorable caves on the wild planets. And I was like, no, I can't be bothered.
That's a good reason to not.
Huh. All my chat windows just went blank. And it says,
Yeah,
not
mine did
enough
that
memory
earlier.
to open this page.
You don't have enough memory for chat?
Well, we know Chrome is a bit of a memory hog. Apparently.
Do you need me to keep reading?
Why don't you tackle the next super chat while I get them back up?
I'm going to say it is ominous that Yahtzee will wear a green hat in 8 weeks. That number keeps going down, and I'm looking at it. It looks like December 7th, a day that will live in
day
infamy.
before my birthday.
You might.
Why would I be wearing a green hat on December?
Number keeps
7th?
going down. I'm just saying. The number keeps going down. The number of weeks. So
I mean, first I'd have to buy acquire a green
you don't
hat.
have a green hat on standby?
Should our November funding goal be get Yahtzee a green hat?
Is this one of those trying to create a self-fulfilling prophecy thing?
I think it might be
$10,000 for a green hat.
Doran Grossman Naples for a $5 dono. Thank you so much. FYI, pusillanimous. Pussy is a folk etymology. It has no historical basis and seems to have been invented by Redditors. Everything's a folk etymology. Piss
off, Doran Grossman Naples. Words of jazz.
Oh, words of jazz!
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says you can't get more simpler than Namco arcade games.
I mean, I think Pac-Man is incredibly simple. It's just a little dude running through a maze trying to eat his pills and avoid his spookies.
But then they added a bow and called it Miss Pac-Man, and that was where things were getting a little too complicated for me.
For a second, I thought you meant a bow, like a bow and arrow, and I was like, that can't be.
Yeah.
They can't have added that into Pac-Man.
The ghosts in original Pac-Man, Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. The ghosts in Miss Pac-Man, Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Sue. Now, where the fuck is Sue's coming from, and what the fuck did she do to Clyde?
Maybe Sue is Clyde's partner.
Who's just
this
sort of
lore, it's too complex.
Yeah. Someone who's just sort of muscled their way into the friend group.
Classic. It's like when Shemp entered the Three Stooges. You're like, who are you? Who are you? And how did you get here?
Hey, yo, Shemp's really funny, though. I'm a big fan.
Shout out to Shemp.
Oh, sorry, Clyde can't make it anymore, but you could be friends with me now.
No thanks, Sue.
What's Inky's perspective? That's what I want to know. Diane Spencer gives £20, the best currency, and says, here's some money, as I've not got a live stream for a while. Thanks very much, Diane Spencer.
Thanks, Diane. We appreciate you.
Say thanks, Ludo.
The dog's talking. Oh, my God.
Sovereign gives €5 and says, what I'm getting from that SH/RE combat talk is you don't actually like survival horror games, Jay. You want a puzzle game with a spooky theme.
Correct.
I think that's it. I think that's, I think that's it. Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Some of us like having a bit of horror in our lives, which involves like smashing the fuck out of something and then stamping on it while weird sort of yelping noises come out of our mouth.
I like horror. Silent Hill 2 remake, I was not scared once. Like, I'm not scared. And I like the puzzles. So give me a spooky game or give me a puzzle game.
Even when one of those asshole mannequins jumped out from around the corner.
Nope.
I liked it when they stood still in the corner, like pretending they were like a coat rack or something, and I got close.
Yeah, sometimes I'd point my torch at them and they just wouldn't move, and I was like, so what's the next stage in your master plan, mate?
It's shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first time I saw his pyramid head through the gate, that was still spooky to me. Every time I see that man through a gate.
Pyramid Head's spooky until you fight him. And then it's just...
Everything's spooky until you fight it. I feel like combat immediately makes something not spooky.
I mean, there's a lot of Dark Souls bosses I fight that are spooky.
They're not
because of how they're designed.
They're just nuisances.
I think what they did with the Eddie boss fight in Silent Hill 2 made it a little bit spookier because you don't know where he's coming from and there's low visibility and you don't know when he's just going to shoot you out of nowhere.
Two people standing face to face firing guns at point blank range.
Well, I guess you were playing it wrong.
In the original, that's how I played. I haven't got to Eddie in the remake.
Well, I always use the Great Knife to kill Eddie in the original. Because here's a little gameplay tip playing the original. Eddie will match whatever you're doing. If you fight him with melee attacks, he'll fight you with melee attacks. And if you fight him with a gun, he'll fight you with a gun.
What if I give him a hug?
He doesn't have a great knife, which is better than what he's using, right? So,
well, exactly, yes.
Oh, he just has a good knife.
Well, that's where I am in the original, so I appreciate it.
Patent Pike gives $2 and says, would you say Rocket League is a good, simple game?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah.
Simple game, but
Yeah,
it goes deep.
It goes,
Yeah.
the people who are good at it, I'm like, what game are you playing?
I mean, at its core, it's simple. You can make it complicated because if you want to like unlock all the cosmetics and stuff,
Yeah.
but that doesn't really affect the core of it.
Is like pick up and play, is that like pick up and play synonymous with simple in your mind? Like something that you could just be like, what's this thing? And then all of a sudden you're just like, all right, I'm playing it.
Yes, where you just pick up the controller, is like, let's see what all the buttons do. Oh, okay, this does this does that. All right, let's get cracking.
Yeah. That's what they said in the Oberdin. Let's get cracking.
There you go. Gives 199 and says, Marty, the third operation in Meta Ray is so good. Metaphor Fantasio, I think he's talking about.
That, without spoiling it, when you were sneaking aboard a big old airship, I think that's the third one. I enjoyed it. Yes.
Yeah, because that's
the
like
process
the
of the dungeon itself.
Like,
wasn't.
Yeah, that's the third town you get to. I didn't even know it was a fucking dungeon until I got to the end of it, and they treated it like I'd gotten to the end of a dungeon.
Yeah, because you do it kind of piecemeal, and it's like weird little like micro sections.
And some of it's like a mandatory stealth section, and some of it's like
speaking of mandatory stealth sections. Those luckily weren't annoying. I never got caught, so I never thought they were annoying.
I had an experience yesterday similar to your dungeon experience there, where I was playing the room, and each kind of puzzle room is its own chapter. And after you finish it, it says chapter complete, move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody called me and they were like, do you want to play games? And I said, yeah, I'm going to finish this next chapter. Do you want to watch? And then I'll come play games with you. So I loaded up the chapter, moved a boat forward like 2 steps, and then it said chapter complete. I'm like, fucking what?
Did you get were you still able to be like, no, I get one more chapter. I get one more chapter.
Yeah, we did one more chapter.
I get an actual chapter.
I was just like, what? How is this a chapter? Like, this makes no sense.
That's funny. That's funny as hell.
Race Carlock is $5 and says, I think it would be a massive missed opportunity if classic 70s stroke 80s arcade games aren't included in a discussion about simple joy and mechanics.
Oh, Race Carlock, don't you worry. We talk about Pac-Man, Space Invaders.
No, we didn't talk about Space Invaders.
Oh, well, I thought about Space Invaders. Burger Time.
Did you know the original Space Invaders was pure white, and they added like strips of coloured cellophane to the screen to make it look like that it had colour?
Oh, that's cool. No, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Little fun fact for you there.
Is pinball simple?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm terrible at pinball. It is shocking how bad I am at pinball.
I think most people are bad at pinball. I think it's very hard to be good at pinball because, you know, if the ball just goes right down the middle, down between the flippers, what the fuck are you supposed to do?
And it's like built for you to lose and spend more money. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but have you ever seen someone who's good at pinball playing pinball?
Pinball wizards.
They are mental. Like,
yeah.
They can send the ball directly where they want every time.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
It's impressive.
Wow, you sure play a mean pinball, one might say.
I don't like that you said a pinball.
You play a mean pinball. Let me see.
I just
pinballs.
There's a new game I got. I haven't played it yet, but called Pinball Spire.
I've been meaning to try that. Yeah, maybe Yahtzee tries it this week.
Ooh, Achimachi.
Achimachi. Yes, it's like Pinballvania.
Yeah.
King Dead 42 gives $5 and says there are several games I haven't finished that were worth the time. Big example is Stardew Valley.
Haven't finished that were worth the time. So, wait, you're saying? Well, I mean, is Stardew Valley a game that you finish?
I mean, it depends how you define finish, I suppose. You sort of have to decide your own level of having finished it.
Yeah.
Like technically, the game ends after you've like run your farm for 3 years, and your grandpa shows up and says, "Right, now I will judge you," like the judgmental asshole I am.
Yeah, and stuff like puzzle games.
But you just keep playing after that, making more and more money and shit.
Puzzle games don't really. Most of them don't have like Tetris. I wouldn't say has like a finish. A Suika game doesn't have a finish. You just play until you keep getting worse.
Yeah, that's just traditional arcade design, isn't it? You just keep going until you die.
Yeah, just like real life.
Fox Steeg is $5. Says a game can lose its simplicity during post-release. Stardew Valley 1.0, simple. Stardew Valley 1.6, so many layers, it's practically Crusader Kings.
Ooh,
I've complained about that in the past because I think where Stardew Valley fucked up was that it started adding stuff that didn't really affect the core gameplay loop. Like the whole business with going to a tropical island and doing this whole bunch of different stuff. And the first time I got there, I was like, I don't want to be here. I got a farm to look after. I want to water my fucking crops.
Go back to my firm.
Is it one of those games? I didn't really follow like the post development that much, like that started adding things that the hardcore fan base wanted.
Oh, Stardew Valley's been in a constant process of adding more and more shit.
Yeah, I know it's a big deal when a new update comes out.
I hear the townspeople have winter outfits now.
Get out of here!
Your waifu can be wearing a scarf.
Ah, cozy waifu.
Best kind. Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, how about minimal puzzle games like Hook or Osmos?
I don't think I know what Hook is.
No,
I tried to Google it, and it's very hard. Hook and Game.
Yeah, that's a Robin Williams film, isn't it?
It is.
I like Hook. Dustin Hoffman. I like that movie.
There's not only would Hook game not bring you to anything but the video game version of Hook, the film. There's more than one video game version of Hook the film, so it will be doubly less likely.
Oh my god.
I played Osmos. Yeah, Osmos reminds me. There's games like hundreds and even like threes, like a lot of mobile. I don't even know if this was mobile, but mobile puzzle games. I feel like have that kind of simplicity to them, which I really like.
All right then. Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, or even arty simple games that evolve, like Braid.
Man, I don't think Braid's simple. Braid is fucking complicated.
Well,
it
starts simple, yeah. It's just, hey, you can rewind time, do that.
Yeah.
But then it's all like, hey, here's stuff that isn't affected by time rewinding, solve puzzles with it.
Yeah, yeah. And then here's a little ring you can drop where time moves slowly inside of the ring, but normal outside of the ring.
Yeah. Phil Willis gives $7.99 and says, Pac-Man had no buttons, Space Invaders had 1, Moon Patrol had 2. By the time Street Fighter had 6, that's more buttons than I've got fingers.
That's a new law, Phil. I like that. You can't have more buttons than you have fingers.
Also, that reminds me of fingers.
That reminds me of when I used to play a lot of Guitar Hero. There's like a stumbling block in moving from medium Guitar Hero to hard Guitar Hero because you have to go from 4 fingers to 5. And of course, you've only got 4 fingers. You have to learn. Suddenly, you have to learn how to move your hand and then keep in your head what buttons your fingers are currently over.
This hand doesn't move for anyone.
Guitar Hero is ableist.
Yeah. When I was like an expert Guitar Hero, I tended to prefer a index on red setup. And move my index up to press green because one's index finger is more dexterous than one's pinky finger. So it's easier to move that up to green than it is to move a pinky down to orange.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Is that you playing Guitar Hero?
It is. That's me playing Guitar Hero at a convention where they were doing a Guitar Hero like tournament, and I was like a celebrity judge, and they asked me to play a bit, and I proceeded to suck while doing Cliffs of Dover in Guitar Hero 3.
I mean, playing in front of a crowd doesn't seem great.
Yeah.
It was a bit nervy.
Yeah, but on the bright side, you've never looked cooler, so...
In my trilby and leather jacket. Yeah, sure.
Playing Guitar Hero on stage.
He's funny. He can't be cool, according to Jack Packard.
True.
Oh. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned pinkies being useless. That's one of the reasons whenever I have to do something mouse and keyboard, I'm just like, I don't think my pinky... I don't have control over my pinky, I think. I don't know where people are like, I don't know. I mean, I do, but I don't know like what I'm hitting, like what's hitting where.
My pinky doesn't move from shift, like ever.
I usually bind left control to crouch because that's what Half-Life did.
Man, I think
I'm a vehement not left control croucher. I'm a C croucher all the way.
You monster.
Well, it's
C
because
crouchers will be the first against the wall when I take over. I'll tell you that.
Like a gaming fucking weird MMO hand pad thing, and they don't have left control on it. So
That's our next big debate. Chat, let us know.
There we
Are you
go.
a C croucher or a control croucher?
Keyboards.
X crouchers, get the fuck out of here.
Actually, fuck off.
Finally, we found common ground between the
Yeah.
two ex-crouchers.
We will crouch and
Yeah.
die on this hill.
That's the next civil war. Alex Armstrong is $2. It says simple isn't same as easy. Titan Souls proves that. Have you played Titan Souls? That's like Shadow of the Colossus, but where everything, including you, dies in one hit.
Yeah,
It's the one where you have one arrow, I believe, as well.
Yeah, you have to like retrieve it.
Yeah.
Boss rush.
Well, the hard part is just getting the exact right moment that you can get your arrow into the weak spot of the boss.
Yeah.
That was Acid Nerve. They ended up doing Death's Door, which was like, they're like, we'll make a full top-down Zelda game. The game was great. Death's Door.
Well, how very nice.
Yeah.
Doran Grossman Naples gives $5 and says, in math, I think you mean maths, Doran Grossman Naples.
Math is so funny. I think adding an S to the end of math is so funny.
It's short for mathematics. It's not short for mathematic.
Listen, I think it's great, and I think we should all do it, and I just think it's very funny, and I love it.
Okay, gonna read the super chat now.
Please say it again.
In math, we usually conceptualize elegance as a ratio. The more you can get out of a simple concept, the more elegant it is. It depends on both sides.
Okay.
Okay.
I like the idea that elegance is a ratio. It needs if you can get across relative complex ideas or mechanics in a simple way, that is elegance.
Okay.
I actually want to look into that. Somebody send that to me in the Discord.
Fox super chat?
Just beam
Fox
the knowledge
D.
to my brain from Discord. Somebody do it.
Fox D gives $5 and says, city builders cannot be simple games. They can start out that way, but they must eventually fold in lots of complexity. See City Skylines. Yeah, I agree with that. A city builder, you can't have a simple city builder. Name one.
Bulwark.
What?
I think it's called Bulwark. Played it at GDC with the dev. It came out recently. It's relatively simple and it's focused on less the structure of the cities and more on the I guess you would say complexity of the relationships between the peoples and the islands and stuff. It's a fun game, but it's nowhere near as complex as like City Skylines or Sims.
Yeah, and there's certain things like we played Tiny Glade the other week, and that's not a city builder. That's
not a game. That's just
it's like a very fun toy. Yeah, I think it's a game, but I digress. That is a thing that is. I think it masquerades as like at first glance, it might be like, oh, there's a city builder, and it's like, no, it's just kind of like a neat level editor.
Yeah. But again, it's got complicated systems running below the surface because it has to like procedurally generate all the doors and windows and architecture and stuff.
Since they were the same stream, would you say 10 Bells was simple?
Yes, considering your options are walk forward or go backwards.
Yeah, you literally only use an analog stick or a run button.
Yeah. It's sort of because when it comes to like anomalies, that's where it gets complicated, and the anomalies are sort of different every time. So, that's not particularly elegant design wise, but yeah, it is a simple premise.
Yeah.
Local Apoteke gives $5 and says, are there any games that benefit from heightened complexity and how? Is it usually or always a drawback? I would say, as I said, like RPGs benefit from complexity because it's enjoyable in the way of sticking your hands in a big bag of dry rice. It's like, oh, look at all this stuff I'm buried in. Oh, it's all falling over itself. I'm having fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are specific genres we've even mentioned. The city builder, management, 4X, like...
Yeah, and people who like city builders appreciate that sort of shit.
Yeah, like traditional MMORPGs feel like they have to be complex, right?
Yeah, you have to build up to that stuff. Puzzle games naturally do this if they're exploring the same mechanics. So Portal, for example, will add, fake surfaces that aren't actually intended to be used in the puzzle. They're just there to obfuscate the actual solution. They're making themselves more complex so that you can feel confused, so that when you do find the solution, you feel satisfied.
Yeah, detective puzzle games like Obra Dinn and such like, the way you make that satisfying is you create as many possible wrong options as you can.
Obfuscation, yeah.
So it's more satisfying to figure out the one correct one.
100%, yeah. But you got to build up to that. You can't introduce a mechanic and obfuscate the shit out of it, because then people just they start to blame the game rather than their own lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So you got to build up to that complexity.
Venom on Killer gives $10 and says, just here to thank and curse Jamate for mentioning Gunpla on a podcast about a year ago. It has given me a fantastic hobby for my ADHD, but has been killer on my wallet. What's Gunpla?
Gunpla is the act of making model kits of Gundam, which are Japanese robot mechs. And they require no glue, they require no painting. You just cut the little plastic bits off the sprues, and then they effectively snap together. But they are some of the most complex bits of mechanics I've ever seen. It's like you feel like you're engineering when you do it. But I like it because I like fiddly little things that I have to put together and toy with.
You were one of those kids who really liked those Kinder Surprise toys you have to put together, weren't you?
Yeah, it's like adult Lego.
Yeah.
Way more complicated, way more fiddly, but at the end of it you have a fully articulated mech, and being able to, when you bend their legs on some of the ones I have, you can see the pistons and rivets between them, how they would operate if they were real. But that one costs 150 quid. They're expensive.
Aren't there some that actually have lighting systems in them too?
Yeah,
so that,
you can buy ones that have extra
simple circuitry so the eyes light up or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh god, I'm surrounded by the weebs now.
I've never watched a Gundam thing in my life. I just
really you just buy a robot that looks cool.
Well, my friends are really into it. They watch it and they build it, and then one day a friend was talking to me about why they love building them, and I was like, that actually sounds like something I'd enjoy. So they just bought me a kit, and then I built it with them. And yeah, I don't know who these mechs are, but man, are they fun to put together,
Yep, I built when I was in high school, I built a couple. I think they were simpler than the ones that are now, but I built a couple based on Gundam Wing. And I just recently finished watching a show called Gundam the 8th MS Team, which is just what if the Vietnam War had a couple sick mechs in it. And now I want to build one of those guys.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think they're too small. I'm not good at little circuitries.
Oh, I love that little fiddly shit.
Got big fingers. Fingers too big.
Sounds like you get out of it what I get out of coding as a hobby. I just like things working because I've strung them together correctly.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Yeah.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says Sonic Stroke Crash is simple till you go for 100% complete.
I'm getting all the extra gems and stuff.
Yeah, I guess.
I always like a lot of 2D platformers, even 3D platformers, I would say, have that design philosophy where it's it feels like you can get to the end of the game and a parent can play it with a kid and the kid can find enjoyment. Kid can get to the end of Mario Wonder or get to the end of I don't know, any 3D platformer like that. But then they throw in those real pain in the ass, like Astrobot. I think a kid can get through Astrobot, but then there's some of those pain in the ass levels that are the triangle, square, circle ones.
I guess they feel they have to treat it the way Shrek treats humor. It's you got to have it for the kids, but then you got to have some secret stealth gags for the mums and dads as well.
Counter Shrek. We had a conversation while playing Metroid Prime the other day with Casey where I asked if Shrek lives underwater because I forgot Shrek has a home because I thought Shrek was a frog, And then I corrected myself. I was like, no, Shrek is an ogre and he has a home, and that's like a plot point in the movies. I don't think a lot about Shrek. All of my Mike Myers thoughts go to Austin Powers. All I think about is Austin
I dig
Powers.
that, but no, he's not.
Shrek does live in a swamp. He lives in a swamp, so
we fell in a swamp in Metroid Prime, and I was like, I bet Shrek's down here.
Well, that would imply that perhaps he has amphibious tendencies.
Isn't he a frog? He seems frog-like because he's green. He's got weird ears.
Yeah.
He does seem frog-like, and he does have those ears are kind of froggy.
Yeah, little tendrils.
I dig that, but
Yeah.
But he doesn't live in the water. He lives in a little house. Although
he
he
would
does,
seen him jump.
Does he lay eggs?
well, he wouldn't. His lady friend would.
Does he fertilize Fiona's eggs? That's the question.
Think about it.
Does he? Well, that's a missed opportunity, isn't it? Getting to watch Shrek jerking off over.
This is one for the adults.
Why does he have an
an
old outhouse? He's coming out of an old outhouse there, and I don't like that.
Yeah, you'd think he'd just go directly into the swamp. I mean, the swamp won't care.
Yeah, just
what's
get
for
on
all
the floor.
all the fish would be like quids in.
But then at that point, if we're asking why is he like not shitting on the floor, why is he wearing a shirt, a belt, and trousers?
Was Shrek a man, and then he got turned into a frog
Shrek's
ogre?
always been an ogre, I believe.
But what's her name? Cameron Diaz was a woman who got turned into an ogre, correct?
Yeah, that's because she was.
No, wait, wasn't she originally an ogre and then got turned into a princess?
No,
There's
she
no
was
way
the
to know.
princess that was cursed to turn into an ogre.
Okay, well, clearly I'm not as in depth on my greatest Shrek lore.
Does she
as
shit on the
somebody,
floor?
Donkey definitely shits on the floor. He's a donkey.
If Shrek's wearing clothes, why isn't Donkey wearing clothes?
I mean, that's the Pluto Goofy thing. Why is
Shrek
Goofy
doesn't-
treated as
well-
a man and Pluto's treated as a beast?
Donkey has fur and Shrek doesn't. So Shrek presumably gets
Well, I'm
cold.
sure he's got fur on his downstairs parts. So
Well, we don't know.
Checkmate,
He's-
atheist.
Well, he never seemed to grow a beard or have the capacity to, because he had that sort of frog-like skin.
Can frogs not grow beards?
and frogs grow beards is my favorite thing.
And
from
frogs
this
grow
podcast.
beards.
I'm going to Google it.
I mean, I guess Shrek was just supposed to be like a hillbilly. Like he lived in the middle of nowhere with an outhouse and didn't really take care of himself, but he wasn't like literally a creature of the
I didn't
filth.
think we'd get into the allegory of one, can frogs grow beards, and like the ethics and like
Guys, yes, some male amphibians can grow facial hair like beards. Granted,
I
this
won't
was
believe it unless Eric brings
this
up
was
a
the
picture.
AI overview. So I don't know if we can trust. I don't know if
I
we can
won't
trust
believe it
Google
unless
anymore.
Eric can bring up a picture. That's
Can frogs grow beards?
Well, moving
Oh.
on.
Frogs are gross.
whoa.
Cudlack13, member for 10 months in the Green Gang, says Pokemon is rock, paper, scissors with 12 hand signs. Exactly. And you
Yeah.
don't have 12 hands, so it's not simple.
Ash
and then
catching.
Permafrosty79, member for 6 months in the tip jar. Thank you very much. And then Geldon Yetage gives $5 and says, simple games can be fun, but making a game fun is usually not simple. If a developer wants to make a simple game instead of a fun one, I won't enjoy it.
Hmm.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to make a simple
Let's
design.
not open that can of worms. What makes a game fun? No, that's not.
Yeah, I mean,
That's going to be it.
there's a ton of different ways you can do platforming. Why is the jumping in Mario fun, but not the jumping in, say, Lode Runner?
Also, there's no universal fun, right? Like,
No, of course not.
yeah. Well, what I made, like,
Well,
I found the movement
made-
Astrobot to be a lot of fun. Some
Well,
people
I
might
had
not.
some universal fun with your mum last night.
No! No!
Damn.
Damn.
Can she grow a beard?
She is an amphibian, so possibly, according to that
possible.
Google AI search.
I think the only universal fun thing is that experiment where they rigged up an electrode to the pleasure center of a rat's brain so they could press a button and it would just turn somersaults in ecstasy. And then they gave it the choice between pressing the button and activating that electrode and food, and they just starved to death every time.
Because they were just too busy flipping, like absolutely just doing backflips and joy. That's how I want to go, baby. Like that's hook me
What's the
up to
most
the rat
fun-
pleasure machine and just let me
What's
do
the most
backflips.
fun thing in a game? What is the single most fun thing in a game?
The hookshot in Just Cause 2.
Damn, you had an answer so quickly.
Yeah,
You had
that
an
was
answer so
crazy.
quickly. I like getting
blowing off a peasant's head in Resident Evil 4.
I was literally about to say a shotgun headshot.
yeah.
Waiting till they get up close and feeling that. Whew.
Oh, I've been playing. Yesterday I played Obscure with Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
The co-op survival horror game.
Yeah.
And man,
It's
you
not.
can
It's not
smash
a very
lot of stuff with
well-known
the bat.
horror game. One might almost describe it as not terribly
gem.
well played
game. Waka waka.
But smashing shit with your bat, like windows and stuff like that—that's really satisfying.
Oh my god!
like
Yeah,
that.
that's what all I'm doing in Silent Hill 2 remake. I see a window.
know.
I'm like,
I was about to bring up. I mean, in that first part where I was trying to find that bloody coin that you need to put in the fucking jukebox, I was going up and down the street, smashing windows with a bit of wood, and I was like, I feel like we're getting away from the essential theme of the game here.
Smashy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like a person tragically being dragged into horror beyond my understanding. I feel like I'm a dumb twat running up and down smashing windows.
That's the entire game for me in the remake. Like, with all of the combat, like that's how I feel. You've just described my experience.
I like a
far less-
backstab in a Souls game. Locking into those animations.
Oh yeah.
Crisp.
Far less than too many frogs. Member for 5 months in tip jar. Thank you very much. And then Alex Armstrong comes back with another $2 and says, Gunpoint. Simple hacking design and no fall damage.
That's Gunpoint. That's the game by Tom Francis, Gunpoint?
Yes. That was one of his early games.
Oh man, I played that forever ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. 2D, pixel art.
Yeah.
Side on.
I remember one satisfying thing in that game is you could just smash through windows. I like going through windows.
Like it ain't no thing.
Yeah.
Tsunami Dusha gives $20 and says nothing, as is his wont.
Thank you, Tsunami Dusher.
And then Witticism comes along with $10 and says, Cuphead is a simple game that feels more complicated given the strength of its animation. Or is this the simple versus elegant discussion? Also, happy Indigenous Peoples Day from Columbus, Ohio, ironically.
Nah.
Yeah,
Cuphead. Because Cuphead, you don't. I guess when you start unlocking a bunch of different verbs, right, in like your special shots, your different movement abilities, but like your core kit is pretty
shoot
simple.
and move, jump and shoot.
What do you think they're gonna do next? They did a shit ton of DLC.
Devs.
Yeah, like, do you think they're painted into a corner?
Like they've become like a one-trick pony. Like they're going to be typecast.
I think so, because even as someone who's a big proponent of I love devs like completely taking a right turn when they make their next project and do something different, I personally would be kind of, because the art style's so unique and so well done, I would be kind of upset if it wasn't in that style.
Yeah, but I mean, can they do like? Would it almost be too difficult to do another genre in that style? Like,
nah,
do you think they could do like a first-person shooter with that visual style?
I mean, that mouse game's coming out, right?
That mouse game's coming,
yeah. But it doesn't look nearly as good as that.
I'd like a narrative-based game. They are working on a new game. Says this is from last week. Says Eric.
I feel like if they do put out like if they do put out like a platformer or Metroidvania in that style, people would just complain that it's not a boss rush like what Cuphead was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they could do a Metroidvania with bosses, like a classic Castlevania.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued to see when someone has such a. It's the same thing with what was his name, Concerned Ape, and Stardew. Like, what do you do after this thing? What do you do after Undertale? Like, what do you do after a game that is so? What does the Outer Wilds team do after Outer Wilds? Yeah. Like,
you make another one and call it something different.
No, and so I mean that I'm sure some people thought the same thing after Papers, Please, and then you get Obra Dinn, you're like, oh wow, that's like incredible. And so, like, I hope more of that.
Lucas Pope has the advantage of being an insane auteur genius.
Yeah,
and I love him, and I want to kiss him.
Sure. And if it's like the Eddie boss fight, he'll want to kiss you back if you approach him with kiss.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, a Nintendo alarm clock. What's next? A smartphone.
I'd probably buy a Nintendo smartphone, like a big dummy.
I mean, yeah, alarm clock is one of the many technologies that smartphones destroyed, isn't it?
No, they just sold the Alarmo, the Nintendo Alarmo, available now for $100.
Well, I have a bedside clock, but I have that because I don't want to have to go wake up my phone to find out what time it is. I don't set an alarm on my bedside clock.
Do you want us to get you an Alarmo?
No.
So that you can associate
it.
I just said I already have a bedside clock.
What if we get you an Alarmo and the alarm sound is just the sound of Pikmin dying? So that's how you wake up. The first thing you hear every morning is the Pikmin going. Argh!
Wait, Marty, do you know what is so special
I want to hear
about this?
every morning is Kickstart My Heart. Don't know about you.
What's so special?
What's so special about that alarm clock, Marty? Because I don't get it.
It's $100.
What does it do?
That's what makes it special. It tells the time.
Tells the time. Yeah.
Then it also chirps out some Nintendo sounds as alarms.
Wow. Just donate the money. If you want to get that, just donate the money to charity.
I had a Mickey Mouse watch when I was a kid. His little hands pointed to the numbers. Is it like that?
What you were going to say, his little hands touched me. And I was like, damn, dude, take the watch
Mickey! Also, the alarm will hear you and know if you've been talking about the Pokemon leaks. Oh, yeah, one of the funniest things is it tracks certain kind of movements of yours like while you sleep, so it's sort of like a sleep health thing, but it specifically doesn't work if there's more than one person in the bed.
Well, what kind of Nintendo fan sleeps with another person?
Very funny.
Bloody hell.
I mean, it's just kids and massive nerds.
Big two.
I believe in Doo-Doo Man gives $2. Says Kind Words 2 released open source vibe therapy.
I am
less than 3.
It really shocked me that I believe in Doo-Doo Man. That name, the first game they dropped was Kind Words. Which I'm excited for Kind Words 2.
I don't know what Kind Words is. What is Kind Words?
It's according to you, it would be a non-game, but it was a game where you wrote little anonymous messages to other people, and they opened them, and the messages were really nice. And I believe it came out during the pandemic, and so it was these like little messages you would open, and it would just be like really like these neat little affirmations written by another human being in a digital.
Did that have like a really strong profanity filter?
I think it was just everyone who bought it, at least when it first came out, were like very much like. The pandemic is sad, and this hasn't broken the quarantine yet of like getting into rabble rousers.
I would immediately be saying some terrible things.
Well, that's why it never broke to you.
That's why I didn't even hear of it.
Yeah, you rabbled too much rousing.
I know. Too busy rabble rousing.
Kind Words, lo-fi chill beats to write to give it its full title, according to Steam.
Yeah.
So how are they gonna expand on that in Kind Words too?
I think it almost seems like more like an MMO-ish. I don't know. It just came out a few days ago. I haven't messed around with it at all. It looks very nice.
It came out a week ago.
Well, okay then. Ryan Betts, member for 8 months in tip jar. Thank you very much. And then they didn't have to do this, but they also gave us a super chat for $2 and said, played 10 bells, loved it, thanks for recommending.
Hell yeah.
You did like Ryan Betts.
As
part of spooky season, I'm planning to play a little digest of other Anomaly Hunt games now that I've learned that it's apparently an increasingly popular genre.
Ooh.
I love them. If you are looking for a co-host, hit me up because I'd love that.
Oh, you co-host everything these days. Give it a rest.
Oh, roasted.
I was on a stream every day last week.
You know what? That's a lot of days, including Sunday.
Yeah.
End of the month is 10th anniversary of Sunset Overdrive. I'm just saying.
Ooh.
Anyone wants to play some Sunset Overdrive? HBD Sunset Overdrive.
HBD.
Also, first anniversary of a little YouTube channel called Second Wind.
Is that us?
Oh my god.
Porchy Morchy.
Oh, goodness me. Who would have thought we roughly shared an anniversary month with Sunset Overdrive, a game I took the piss out of many years ago and would like to stop thinking about, but Marty keeps fucking bringing it up.
What if we sign a contract and we say this is the last stream either of us will ever talk about it? And then I break the contract because I keep talking about it.
Well, would we also have to say not allowed to talk about Persona or Silent
Hill? No, that's a good one. We need to.
You guys can just choose to not talk about it.
Oh, we
for
can't.
freezies.
You know what?
Well,
could
you
choose
know,
to
a
fucking
dieter
not
could theoretically choose not to eat cakes, but it's harder than it sounds.
think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Anyway, that was the last super chat. So yay, we got through it. Now I could, and my fucking eating period has just started. So finally, I can get some fucking lunch.
Delicious.
You're eating menstruation.
God
Yeah.
damn it.
Oh, well, this was like before we started talking, wasn't it? Yes, I'm experimenting with intermittent fasting, Chad.
It's good for
So I
you.
could maybe lose a bit of weight. I've been getting a bit round around the tummy
I
in my
believe you.
increasing middle age. So you said you did it as well, Jay.
Yes, I intermittent fast and have done for years and years and years.
Well, I guess it works for you. It did come
It's that
pretty
and
highly
a tiny,
recommended.
like the tiniest bit of exercise. It's crazy what it'll do for your body.
I walk the dog twice a day. Will that do?
Pretty
Start
much,
running
yeah.
the dog.
All
Run
right
the
then.
dog.
But yeah, it does
Like
mean
run the
that I
jewels.
don't. It does mean I don't get any breakfast except for a black coffee. So now I'm fucking starving. So
Your body gets used to it.
yes, thanks for watching the Windbreakers podcast. I was Yahtzee. That was Jay, and that was Marty. Boosh. 3 names. Rattle them off.
Incredible. Beautiful.
If you like me, and why wouldn't you, then you could watch Fully Ramblematic this week as well. It's on the subject of Metaphori Fantasio.
Ooh.
Not Silent Hill 2, because Atlas actually gets their review codes in on time.
Yeah, we got plenty.
We got Metaphor in ages ago. It was like a month ago.
Yeah.
That's why I've been able to play enough of it to review it.
They needed to. It's so bloody long.
I know.
be fair.
I mean, I hasten to add, I still haven't fucking finished it, but I got like all the party members. That's like 1,000,000 hours in.
Yeah.
I've also got Yahtzee Tries this week, in which I will be playing Pinball, whatever it was, I think. And I think I'm going to give that Europa game a go. Because Marty says it's shit and he's really easily pleased. So now I'm curious.
What's your review on that, Marty?
That is a perfect game to where it takes the formula of Journey, which I think was simple, and it adds complexity to it, and the complexity makes it worse.
Okay, then.
It's very pretty.
So that's that. No semi-ram this week, but we had one last week on the subject of dad games. Check it out if you haven't already. And check out last week's Fully Ramblematic as well while you're at it. It was on the subject of the Plucky Squire, which we brought up earlier.
Just
Man.
check everything out.
Yeah,
Content.
why not? And on that note, what else have we got to plug for this week?
Jay, what do you got going on?
I've got Design Delve coming out this week on the subject of Silent Hill 2 and my experiences with it. And you can listen to me complain about not liking survival horror games, apparently. We've come to that conclusion. But I've got a lot of criticism and a lot of praise. So look forward to that. Also got our Resi 7 stream this week and more Obscure on Sunday.
And you'll be joining Darren and I tomorrow for the rewind.
Yes. Oh my God. If you
Rings of
want to
Power.
hear me get incredibly nerdy about Rings of Power and complain about lore, I'll see you there.
I've watched 6 of the 8 episodes. I watched 6 episodes this weekend, so I just have the last 2 I'm going to finish tonight.
Beautiful.
But yeah, speaking of that, stream-wise, later today, 6 p.m. normal time, the Hidden Gems crew will be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Central, before the rewind at noon. Jesse Schwab and Jesse Galena are going to be playing a little OG Resi 2. Why? Because they can, because it's kind of spooky.
All the Jessies.
Crunchy spooky. Yeah, and then rewind at noon. Jack has jury duty, so he will not be on the show, but Jay will be joining Darren and I to chat Rings of Power. I'm sure Darren will have some more Joker thoughts, all that good stuff. Then normal streams throughout the week.
I've gotten like 3 jury summons, and every time I just go online and say, I'm not a citizen, piss off.
I've never been summoned, which is weird.
Apparently it goes by driving license records.
Yeah.
So if you've got a driving license, they might send it to you, even if you're not a citizen and are therefore ineligible.
Oh,
Do
interesting.
you need an American driver's license to drive in America?
Well, I did, but then I didn't have any driver's license from previous countries.
Oh,
know.
you
Like, if
got
you're
a driver's
visiting,
license
you
in
can
America.
drive. Yeah, if you're visiting, you can drive. If you have a driver's license. Yeah.
Because like I've got an English one, so I'm hoping I can drive.
You should be fine. And then, yeah, like Jimmy said, more Resi 7 at noon on Thursday, more Metroid Prime at 7 p.m. on Thursday. And then I think you, Jess, and Tina might be doing Night in the Woods on Friday?
Yes.
Yeah, like the normal dev heads time.
Yeah, I think I just
Casual
said yes
spooky.
to being on a stream. Apologies, Jess and Tina. Yes, I don't think I actually looked at the date. I'm on
That's the
stream.
thing. You
I've
become
got time on
stream
Friday,
hungry.
so-
You become a stream fiend.
Yeah,
Stream fiend.
Stream fiend.
can't get enough. Just
But yeah, we'll have updated
streaming.
schedule in the Discord that Eric keeps up to date. So yeah, just tune in for all that.
He's the ceaseless discharge of streaming.
Oh
I
my
am,
god.
apparently, So
Oh
clean me up.
no. Oh no.
One last super chat came in the last minute from our old pal Fungus Finder. Gave us $2 and says, "I'm getting Ed, and Eddie vibes from y'all today."
Shotgun Ed
Who's
with
who?
2Ds. I don't know. There's two of them. I forgot.
No, I've never watched Ed, and Eddie.
I think I'd be the dumb one. The dumb
The
one. in
long
green.
dumb one.
The long dumb one.
Yeah, I think you're the sunburnt one, Yachts, and I'm the twat in the back.
Yeah.
All right,
sounds all right.
fine, whatever. I don't care. Well, that'll be it from us then. Thanks for watching. Bye. See you all on Wednesday.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.